All right. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 13 of Breaking Through Your Brick Walls. This is a live podcast where you get to meet successful business owners, receive a glimpse of life behind the scenes with them, and struggles that they've had and they've overcome. We're always super lucky because we get some gold nuggets in there, too, from someone who has been there, done that. This is where we just hang out to be authentic and we share a piece of real life with you. And today I'm talking with Lisa Wells, and Lisa is a marketing, operations, and systems guide for coaches, consultants, and service providers. Lisa's also a military spouse and a mom to two sons. Originally from Southern California, she feels at home now in North Carolina, but loves working remotely with clients all over the country. In her free time, she loves true crime podcast, spending time on her sailboat, and breakfast at greasy diners. You might also find her enjoying fireflies and lightning storms because forget sunny days, cold and rainy ones are always where the magic happens. My name is Pamela Lewerenz. I'm the Brick Wall Coach, and I'm a business consultant that works with overwhelmed, stressed, and confused solopreneurs to create actionable plans for their success and work with them to stay focused on all the things that there are to do with running a business. If you want to step into your role as CEO of your own business, then I'm your gal. So I'm so excited to talk with Lisa today. She's going to share all about her business with us, including all those struggles and triumphs. So welcome, Lisa.
Thanks for having me, Pamela.
I am excited to have you here. So Lisa is someone that I have been following since probably 2014 when I broke out into this whole owning your own business because of what she does and the material she has. And it was super helpful to me. So when I'm doing this live podcast series, she's definitely a person that I had to talk to, had to get on here so you could all listen to her as well.
Well, I love to help people, so that's great.
Well, why don't you start off by telling us just a little bit about yourself, that face behind the business, the personal side.
Well, as we were talking before the podcast started, my husband's retiring from the military. So being a military spouse, I love it. And we've been doing this for 30 years, but right in the middle of when I was in a career, loved my career. I love my coworkers. I love my boss. I love my job every day. I sprang out of bed and, actually told my boss one time I'd do this job for free if you didn't want to pay me. And he was like, please don't ever say that to anybody. But I loved it. And then we got orders. And I know it is something that all military spouses and families have to deal with. But we were coming up on 16 years. So we thought, we're going to stay on the West Coast for the 20 years and retire. And I'm going to go on to do my, I was a few classes away from graduating, and we were young. we had so much going on. And then they moved us to the East Coast, which was quite a shock. Yet I thought, well, this is going to be great. I've always wanted to live on the East Coast and kind of wanted to get out of California. I was kind of there my whole life and thought this is going to be a time when I can just break free and do what I want, And I thought, and I came upon the industry of remote, I was doing, remote secretary, but there was a whole industry called virtual assistant. And I thought, this sounds so interesting. So I kind of just started. And back in 2005, it was a lot easier. Nowadays, I feel bad for people choices. Everybody, there's back then there were only a few programs, social media wasn't even around yet. WordPress was just kind of getting started. Most people were using things like TypePad, and you kind of, as long as you specialized, you sort of had a niche that you can do. Nowadays, there's so many choices. So that's how I got started. It was kind of just, you know, husband gets orders, you're moving, thought I'd just start something new.
So you had been in California your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And what was it like being thrown to the wolves over in North Carolina?
I never felt, and I was telling my neighbor this the other day, actually, I've never felt really home in California because it's I'm not a beach person. I'm really, I'm a sweater kind of person, and you don't get that in Southern California. Every day I'd watch the news, and every day it was the same 70 or 75 and clear.
70 and sunny.
Yeah. And I thought, so when I heard North Carolina, even the architecture around here, the homes, the roads, down the road is a tobacco field. It's just real open. I love it here. I thought raising our kids, because back then my kids were in 3rd grade and 8th grade when we moved out here. So just everything about it, I loved. Except there were just no jobs. The only place that was hiring was working for the county in the IT department, and it was for 1/3 of my income in California. And people think, well, cost of living, my car payment did not go down when we moved. So it was bills, no.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And I hear you about the whole landscape and the architecture of things, because coming from New England, where everything is like super old. I mean, we have things that date back to the 1600s there. So then we come down here to the South and, things that are like mid 1800s or even early 1800s, they think it's like super
modern.
Antique-ish. And I'm like, yeah, except so
No,
it's all relative. But I mean, when I did go out and
Mhm.
visit California a couple times, you don't have that. I mean, it didn't exist before, really before the mid to late 1800s.
Mid to late 1800s. And
so it's totally a different type of atmosphere.
it is. And the city that we lived in was their codes were that it was San Clemente, California. So all the buildings could be no higher than so many stories because you've got the ocean view. And you go along the freeway, there's no small towns to kind of turn off and explore. Like here, I love doing that. So it was I miss certain parts of it, but overall, when people ask us, are you going to move back to California? The answer is no. We're gonna stay here.
Nope. Good. I am glad. Although you can work from wherever, but still.
I prefer here.
Yeah. So here's a 2-part question for you. Can you explain to us what a systems operations guide does? And what does a day in your life look like?
Let me explain first how I came to that marketing operations and systems guide, because it was a process. So when I first started out, and this is going to be good for those people who are kind of in that evolution in their business where they're like, I don't know what to call myself, or I'm changing from one to another. So this is what happened. So when I was a virtual assistant, it was very easy because you would go to a user group meeting and kind of everybody knew what an assistant was. And then you just had to really basically educate them on what a virtual assistant can do for them. And there was an industry, International Virtual Assistants Association. So it was really easy to start that up. My website was great, had a lot of clients. It was very easy. And then people started coming to me saying, I want you to do more training. And then I thought, well, should I call myself what should I call myself? Coach, trainer. I kind of went through, I think I bought 4 domain names: VA marketing mentor, marketing coach, and then ended up as a trainer because I didn't want to be a coach. I wanted to just tell people what to do because I love telling people what to do. So it was a trainer. And then, so I had virtual assistant, and then I had virtual assistant trainer. And then I started evolving again to becoming, instead of a virtual assistant, I wanted to become an online business manager. So went through the training, started getting what we call OBM, online business manager clients. Well, now those kind of things no longer applied because I'm like, well, I don't want to be a trainer over here and then an OBM over here. And my old VA people still thought I was kind of doing that work, but it's different. So then by this time I had 4 websites doing multiple things. I had a shop, I had my practice over here and my training, and now courses and doing webinars. And it was getting so confusing that my logos didn't match up with what my colors were. Nothing was matching up. So I hired somebody who kind of went through this with me. And she said, so what you really are is a guide, because you've been there. And, like you were saying in your intro, you've been there and you're kind of helping people along the way. So when you think about Star Wars, the hero of the story isn't Yoda. Yoda is just the guide. And when I work with my clients, I'm not the hero. They're the ones changing lives and helping people with their marriages or with their business or whatever they're doing. So I'm just the guide, helping them get from point A to point B, efficient, cost, with an eye on costs and how to be successful without going through the whole,
But there are so many terms out there.
Yes.
And that's what I think the confusing part can be for people when they're trying to determine what they're doing. And then on top of it, when you build into the factor that here you are going along nicely, but then you're like, uh-oh, I'm actually doing so much more than what I originally did. Or I've taken this, side path over here, and now look at the things I do. So you have to rebrand, and you take the time. And like you said, it's logos, it's colors, it's, yes, I'm the same person. No, I don't do quite all those things anymore. I mean, it can be time consuming, but it can be the kind of thing that you just kind of want to pull your hair out because you just want to know, what do I call myself? So that you can easily tell other people, this is what I do for you.
Yes. And I think that's a lot of it is, when, especially if you're a coach and you come out of, if you go to the schools for coaching and there's 50 different types of coaches out there, but they come out and they say, I'm a coach. Yeah. Well, nowadays you have to be really, really specific in what you do and who you help and how you would help them. And it's the same thing with our industry. First you can get away with saying you're a VA. Then it was, I think at one point there were 3 types of VAs. There was the generalist, the real estate VA, and the tech and marketing VA. And now there's, I think last count, 100 different types of specialties.
Oh yeah, because they're all exactly, it's the specialty.
Yeah.
It's the specialties.
Right. So with marketing operations and systems guide, it's more of just encompassing how I help people, which is, like I said, best way to get from point A to point B and achieve their goals. So not a coach, not a trainer, not a service provider, more of if I had to drill it down, probably just a consultant. I help people with their marketing and systems.
I love it. I love it. So now what does your day look like?
Well, I'm in just like we were talking about earlier, I'm in what they say, not at a crossroads so much as getting out of one car and into another. So kind of stepping back, I've been taking the whole summer off. I have a couple of long-term clients and I do a lot of automated marketing. So I do make money. But as far as doing my day-to-day and coming up with new content and gosh, even my social media is automated. My creating new videos, putting out new things, doing webinars. I kind of just been hanging back a little bit because I want to see where I want to go. Some things I'm going to keep, some things I'm going to let go. And there's one or two things I might want to add to what I'm doing or taking the place of what I'm currently doing. So my typical day right now is winging it. I hate to admit that because the marketing part is automated, but as far as like, what I want to do, I've been kind of just talking with people and reflecting on what it is I want to do, setting intentions. I'm part of 3 different groups. So we meet on a weekly basis, kind of going over, how little decisions affect your business.
Right.
So a lot of reflecting, things like that.
A lot of working on your business instead of in your business.
Definitely.
Looking forward to the growth and what's to come next, and just kind of taking it easy, which sometimes we all need to take that little sidestep. I mean, gosh, I had 5 weeks up in Connecticut, which same thing. It's not like I stopped working, but I definitely worked limited hours and watched what I was doing so that my focus was on visiting with people that I went there to visit instead of saying, oh my gosh, can't do that. Gotta work today.
Yeah.
Sometimes what it's all about, I know.
It was fun. And I thought, what am I going to do with all this? But gosh, things fill up, things come up pretty much every day of what I can do. And, like things like this, being interviewed or seeing what opportunities are out there.
Yeah.
I've never taken off this much time in my life. Even when we moved out here, I think I took off 1 week to unpack. But it's been fun. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, it's time to get back into.
But I mean, that's kind of what happens when you have so much going on, when not only in your business, but in your personal life. I mean, between your husband's retirement and your son and his schooling and all that kind of stuff, you have to give yourself permission to kind of just step back and look at it and say, okay, this is where my focus needs to be right now. I mean, that's what I felt like when I moved down here to South Carolina last July. In my book, in my planner, I said, I'm going to move. So I'm going to drive down, I'm going to unpack, and I'll give myself 7 days. 7 days. It was more like 7 months. Okay.
See, I don't feel so bad now.
No. And I mean, it wasn't that I stopped working, but some of those aspects of work. And there's a big difference between working in your business when you're working with clients or working on your business where all the other magic happens. Mm-hmm. And like you said, a lot of yours is automated. So you're able to do that. That's saving you tons of time. Your business is still going forward because of those automations.
Yeah. And well, this is why I preach, systems and automation, because you can give yourself a break. And especially when we're trying to think, what is our life going to look like now that he's retired, but he's young. He's going to have another whole career for another at least 15 to 20 years. So we're looking at, I want to spend more time on the sailboat. Well, that's going to be hard if I'm, chained to the desk, or if I have calls back to back or things like that. So my fear was that, I don't want to be tied down yet. Who knows what the future is going to hold. So don't make any.
You still need to make money. You still need to run a business of some type. Yeah.
Right. So I've been listening a lot to, the whole woo. I'm getting into the woo things. So listening to law of attraction, and, they're saying when it gets to this part and you feel like you're trying too hard, just step back for a little bit and let things happen. And so, that's where I'm at. But the other part of me, the more analytical side of me, is like, what are you doing?
You need to be working.
Where's your, get your books out and write those lists. And it is a struggle. The struggle's real.
Well, all that kind of struggling aside, what would you say, or what would you want to share about a certain struggle or a certain hurdle that you had when you first started growing your business way back when, and what did you do to get around it?
Well, I've been doing, this is my 15th year. So I'm going in. So looking back, it was, I feel like when I first started, I had no fear. I was doing everything and making mistakes and having fun. And then as you go, I feel like the repercussions were a little bit, like, oh my God, that was a lot of money to spend on something that didn't work. And then I started feeling second guessing my decisions, which you can't really do in this industry. That's something I've had to learn many times over and over, is you have to just kind of, okay, that's part of the process, and move on and do the next thing. But my struggle is the whole second guessing, dwelling on, well, why didn't it work? And well, now it's never going to work again. And you can't be in that space for too long. I mean, now I'm like,
not for too long. You do have to look back and see, particular things that you did, why they didn't work, and maybe tweak them, or when they totally don't work, get rid of them and move on. Yeah. Then you move on and, allow yourself that space where you need to be sad or frustrated or angry that something didn't work out the way you wanted it to, but then move on. Because if you stay in that space too long, that's when that self-esteem and that motivation and everything kind of just keeps plummeting down lower and lower.
Right. And it's one of those, I think recognizing and being self-aware, like this is, I tend to do that, but it's not really serving me. So I need to move on now. So that's my
Yay, I like that. So let's say you have somebody who comes to you and does not have any kind of systems or operation type things. It's all a mess. It's kind of like, well, I do this sometimes, but other times I do this, and I don't really have a system that supports any of it. How do you even start? What do you look at?
That's a great question, because a lot of times people get paralysis in that spot because they're thinking, I don't even know where to start. So what I'd like to do is start with the marketing. So we'll kind of break it down. How are you getting what are you doing to get the phone to ring? Because there's no sense in starting all the other stuff if your phone isn't ringing. So I've had clients who want to build up their team, and I'm like, that's great to build up your team. Let's start with the delegation, and what are we going to have them do, and what are the different things that you want done, and so what is your budget? And they're like, well, I'm not making any money right now. And I'm like, well, we need to start there. So it's always with the marketing. How are you getting the phone to ring? Are you meeting people? If you're meeting people, if your ideal client is at a trade show, what are you doing to get those clients to translate to an online business? Because I only work with online businesses. So, yeah. Or if your thing is social media, how are we getting those people off of social media into your nurture funnel? So I like to start there. How are you getting clients, and how can we get them into your system so that it is easier for you? Then once they get the marketing part down, then we start looking at onboarding. When you're getting those clients, we need to have systems to onboard them so that when you finally do get help down the road, you have these pieces in place. A lot of times people will also, I'm part of a lot of Facebook groups. I'm in, how to do webinars, big group for people to do webinars. And that's one of their things. They're like, well, I want somebody to do the launch for me and do the marketing and write the emails and, and, for $5 an hour. And yeah. I'm like, it's not going to happen. So figure out what you're doing on a daily basis, write that down, and that's going to be your beginning of your systems. So it's kind of just starting small, starting with your marketing and then growing from there.
I like that. it's good advice, because if you don't have any clients or you only have one or two clients, that's actually a really good time to not only work on the marketing piece, but then a great time to implement the system then, instead of, okay, here I am, down the road, 20 clients in, and it's a mess. It's a mess. Now what do I do?
It's a mess. And plus, your systems may change. So I don't want people spending all their time writing up all these SOPs and things when they haven't even tried their onboarding yet. So I'm like, well, go through it, fine tune it, and then we'll create the system for it. And then we can move on to the next thing.
Yeah. So are there some tried and true systems even before the onboarding, like scheduling calls, or, are there some systems that you would recommend you put into place before you look into these other things?
Mine are, first is your marketing, and that can take the form of social media or email marketing or free discovery sessions. And that would be kind of part of that. So getting them into your funnel where you're walking them down the path and ultimately getting them on the phone. Mine never was getting people on the phone. I've tried it. I didn't really like it so much. But for coaches, yes, you want to get people on the phone. So that would be ultimately your marketing piece. And then what I call the intake. So you're interviewing people, you're intaking warm leads. And then when they say yes, that to me is when the onboarding
begins.
Starts happening. And then it's, gathering the information that you need from them and putting them into a process of, this is how we do things around here. This is how things are going to progress. This is our payment schedule. That would be kind of the onboarding piece. And then getting them used to working with you. And then once you're done with that, then you can move on to production. So it's more of creating more content, how to add to your services, things you're going to be creating. That's all under production or fulfillment. And then it's the team management. Team comes last. So once you've got you're making money, how you're working with the clients, how you're going to create more information for them, then comes the team part. So that's kind of my 4 pillars of system.
That's perfect. Good. So there's like 50 million questions I have for you, but I know it's like, I want to, I know I have to be mindful of the time too. And I don't like to run over 30 minutes, but I want you to share some kind of sage advice with everybody. What do you have to pass along to these listeners?
Oh gosh, you listen to yourself, listen to your gut, and don't get caught up in the comparison trap. I know it's really hard, and I know sometimes to extricate yourself from that is really hard. I myself have FOMO, fear of missing out. What if I don't do that? I have to be on all the platforms. No, you don't. Just start out with one. When you get really good at that one and you're starting to see results, then move to the next one and start with the one where your clients are at. Don't, just because everybody's saying to be on Facebook does not mean you have to be when your target market is on LinkedIn. Yeah. So, listen to yourself and don't get caught up in having to read everything or know everything. People are hiring you because of you, your background, your experience, your take on things, your voice. And that's what I wish I would have known that, I think, at the very beginning.
Yeah, 16 years ago. 16 years ago.
I think it would have been so much easier. I wouldn't have, 15 things, juggling things all the time. But yeah, listen, I think, listening to your gut, listening to your inner voice.
Yeah, I love that. And then, of course, reaching out to somebody like you who's been there and gone through these things. People can learn so much. And what you do need to learn, because it seems so vast at times, it's going to come in time. You can't do everything at once. So if you want to learn new things, set an hour aside every week and just learn about a new topic, but not everything has to be done at once. And I think that's a great piece of advice for people. Good.
I agree.
Well, I am going to put all the links of where people can find you and connect and everything, all that good stuff in here. And I want to thank you for coming in and talking to me today.
Well, it was great sharing the afternoon with you and your peeps.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun.
Good. Well, thank you to everyone else who joined us too for this other episode of Breaking Through Your Brick Walls. Those are all the little things that are standing in your way. So I just want to leave you with, remember, every day is a good day to be you. You're amazing. Don't forget it. Now go out and rock your business.